Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome back to the Nasty Gram D&D podcast. This is The Tangled Web, Chapter 17, Dark Pathways.
Feeling it too hard is the poison to the heart of the sick.
We open on a moonless, starless, dark sky. Selena, for all the years you have been hidden from me, I beg Our Lady to let you hear me now. We smash cut a raging inferno. Blackened stalks disintegrate as they fall. Inhuman shrieks cut through the roar of the conflagration. And we're back to the night sky, now violent as a crescent moon waxes. Menzoberranzan is a wound. A shadow cast by Our Lady's light. Must it burn before it can heal? Through the flames, we see the silhouette of a mushroom farmer reaching out for some unreachable reprieve. And back to the night sky, an owl passes silently across the half moon. Silavar's children have left for Candlekeep in search of more answers, and I fear they leave with the only light to counteract the darkness in his heart. The cloud drifts across the frame, obscuring the moon and darkening the sky. I felt even my own light fading, fear and rage taking hold. We smash cut again to the corpse of J-Loon, the Rot Father, now cleansed by fire, and then back to the night sky. But then there was Zephyr, and I saw in him hope, though I do not believe he had yet felt it himself. So I showed him. The cloud passes, revealing a full moon on a lavender sky. We pan down through the canopy to a moonlit grove, a white fawn calmly grazing. Its ears twitch, and the handmaiden raises its head to listen. The lady of the forest bestowed upon him a boon, a curious little fox. Though I believe this gift was offered to Zephyr on behalf of another, I will protect it as I would a lone candle in a windstorm. And the winds surely blow against us. The camera continues to pan down through soil and rock, through caverns and underground lakes. Faster and faster we descend until we stop, on a full moon, slowly waning on a lavender sky. The just gods are on our side, Selena, but it is the actions of just mortals that will forge our fate. We pull back to see the lavender sky as the lavender skin of Moon Maiden Salai, and the moon a projection of the circlet around her head. She rises to her feet and brushes ash from her hands. Your grandmother, my namesake, had always told us that we are a shield against the darkness, but I'm coming to learn that we must also be the blade. We quick cut to a close-up of a drow rapier. A hand glides a whetstone down its edge, arcane words whispered like a breeze. A sickle to cull dark vines that blight our gardens, and a sword to strike against fear and darkness itself. Salai looks down to her feet as small mushrooms sprout. Wet ash is absorbed into the ground as green moss spreads out around her. The path in front of me is obscured, Selena, but your light, Our Lady's light, shines within me, and I will shed it upon those wicked things that hide in the dark.
The West Wall, the house of the 28th family. The floor of the main hall is covered with the bloody bodies of drow soldiers. Kobolds move through the carnage, searching the corpses of their former masters for treasure. Zogar, the heavily armored bugbear, grunts some orders to a group of orcs and stops abruptly when he hears a whisper. He lifts his heavy axe and moves down a hallway. In the darkness of the hall, we see the silhouette of his brother Grimgar. He hears the whisper again.
Hello, brother.
And the ghost is gone. Welcome back to the Nastygram Dungeons and Dragons podcast. I'm your host, Jake.
This is Josh. I play Zephyr, and I'm incredibly prepared. I'm not missing anything critical
at all. Like all of your spells. You know.
Let's go. Let's go.
Jake is Josh is RPing as a wizard who lost his spellbook.
Hey, folks. Dan here playing Salivar the Warlock. Yeah.
Wow. What's good, fam? Matt playing Jidin Duskrin, the many-faced rogue.
There we go.
Hey, this is Devin, and I'm playing Moon Maiden Salai, the Shining.
All right.
I feel like a farce. I'm looking. Dan's got a fucking legitimate spreadsheet.
I mean,
A legitimate color-coded spreadsheet.
yeah.
Oh, you moved
Well-
up from the paper spreadsheet.
I mean, sometimes I print it out, if that makes you feel better.
You guys gave me a big list of shit you wanted to get done here. And so this game, we're going to do a little bit of a montage and a little bit of a time skip. So this game is probably, well, if you're listening at home, you've already heard, but it's probably going to be called 100 Days.
I was thinking about that earlier. I think we should do like a rent thing and sing how many minutes are left in the countdown each podcast.
If only we had a bard in the party to write that song. 475 minutes until we're dead.
That song gives me PTSD because I had a girlfriend who would get drunk and always want to put on
Girlfriend, sure.
the
Dear
fucking
God.
Rent, like the movie or the soundtrack.
Yeah, sure.
and
Wasn't
that
you?
song.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in my musical theater days.
We're going to start on the shore of the Sea of Swords. The sun is rising over the ocean, and we see a small stone keep on a beach surrounded by a small village. We hear roosters cawing, livestock moving around, the bell of the church ringing. And we see Salai and Salivar. Devin, can you tell me how you guys got there?
We got here on the eastern sea wind. We carried down the coast as a cloud, and in the morning at Candlekeep on the cliffs by the water, we walk up, we crest the hill to look upon it.
If we traveled as a cloud, does that mean we commingled?
Hot.
No, we can move
Separate clouds?
separate clouds.
Okay.
Sounds like a transporter malfunction kind of situation.
Now there's Salivar.
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Salivar.
Just call it the Moon Maiden. if you want.
Fired.
No, I like it. All right. So there you are, watching the sunrise and approaching Candlekeep. Do you think either of you have ever been here? You're pretty far south from where you both lived on the surface. Probably not.
I don't think so. I mean, he's probably dealt with people who have come through here.
It's not a big place.
Okay.
Anyone, any old school gamer will know it is the place where you start when you play Baldur's Gate 1.
Yep.
It's basically a large library that a village kind of was built around, and Candlekeep is the name of that keep, which is a library. So a lot of scholars come here, but there's not much else here. It's the building itself, much like that church that you all went to, is very out of place. The village around it even smaller than that one that you assaulted and murdered in the first game.
And then came to protect and love and nurture
probably
for 100 years.
Probably 150, 200 people live here.
Okay.
And you're walking through kind of farmland, coastal farmland, rolling green hills, making your way towards a wooden palisade that surrounds the town proper. The gates are closed.
Do you think they are still here?
The children.
She nods.
It has already been 100 days. It depends what their research uncovered.
You know that Morgana has magical ways of moving quickly too. So if they didn't have magic, it would be believable that they maybe just got here.
We shall find out soon enough.
As you approach the gates, the wooden gates, you see two helmets popped up over the top of the palisade.
Hail. Salavar holds up his hand.
You hear them whispering to each other.
Salai removes
What the hell is it?
her hood,
Looks like the other ones.
and her hair is silver. She's sort of showing that she's a member of the clergy of Saloon.
We seek entry.
You there, ma'am? What are you? Are you a moon maiden?
I am Moon Maiden Salai of Lorel.
What's that with you?
I cast Finger of Death on him. Sorry.
He is your doom. He is a guard to protect me along the road.
Salavar raises an eyebrow at you.
You looking for the two demons?
Salavar's head swings over to him.
You have seen them.
He nods.
Where?
In the library.
Open the door and we shall have after them.
Dan, do you think how diplomatic do you think your children are?
I think that my daughter she's fairly charismatic. She's I think on the business side of the family mercenary company, my son is probably more direct.
Okay. The doors open, and you hear armor clanking as these two soldiers make their way down to the ground. They come down ladders on the back end of the palisade.
I show that I'm unarmed.
Oh, it's an honor to have a moon maiden here. They kind of give Salavar a look. Right this way. They didn't cause any trouble, but strange creatures insisted on full access to the library.
Is that a problem?
Not my business to say if it's a problem or not. It's up to the keepers.
Did they mention anyone by name?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the librarians.
But they are still here.
I can bring you to them. Cut to the inside of the library. Imagine a full like a medium-sized keep, but instead of halls and bed chambers and armories and shit like that, it's just basically almost entirely just libraries. Some rooms are more ornate and sort of designed for the public. These 5-6 story high with these giant windows and the ladders so you can kind of climb up to the higher shelves. And then some of the rooms are darker, more like storage rooms. And that is actually, you go through one of those really nice, well-lit rooms and into one of those more like a basement storage room. And you walk in and it's lit by this blue flame that your children have created. And the guard just opens the door and then lets you guys in. And you see both of them sitting at a table reading books, stacks of books around them.
Children.
Your daughter looks up. Her eyes kind of glint off that blue light. Oh, good.
You expected us.
I hoped.
Salavar strides over the table, he embraces both of them. And he says, "What have you found?"
Good news.
Pray tell.
You needn't worry about your thoughts or even your words for the most part.
Salavar gives a sort of confused look.
He can watch you, although not here, not in this place, and not where you've created a home in the Claw Rift. But it would seem he's not a god, but you know that. His power is more like a very strong wizard. He has the ability to scry, to keep an eye on you. He has the ability to transfer this power to you. But he does not know your thoughts, and he is not omnipotent.
Salavar's nodding slowly to this. That is good news.
There's more good news. How is he going to get into the city? We don't know. you know, you both know the difference between devils and demons, right? Out of game.
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of chaos versus...
Sure, yeah, and they're like different things.
Yep.
She says, it's fairly simple to summon demons into Menzoberranzan, but there's strong magic that prevents devils from entering. They're much more rare, and it's much harder to open portals to allow them in. It's nearly impossible to make something permanent.
Chaos reigns there.
And they don't like that. They like law. They like an orderly sort of evil. We're not sure how House Duskern plans to return, but it's not going to be as simple as having someone cast a ritual that simply allows them to come walk in. And it also won't be as simple for your patron to return.
Is it more than a means of walking through a gate?
She shrugs. Not sure. But whatever it is, you'll need to find out and stop it. But it won't be a gate. Or it won't be a simple spell.
It won't be a traditional summoning.
She nods.
Salavar, he's nodding. His eyes kind of glance over at, I want to say Savarkeen, but it's Salai. Thoughts? He looks at you.
Not a summoning. A doorway, a gate.
It is possible to open gates to other parts of Faerun, but even that, it's not simple. I understand that at one point, Malekith had a way to enter, what's it called?
Mithranor.
Mithranor.
Salavar's nodding.
But I'm not sure if he can. He may be stuck in the Nine Hells.
Stuck would suggest that he is imprisoned somehow.
But he's not a devil. He's not a demon either.
Yet he resides there.
She nods.
But perhaps not bound by its magic.
But bound in another way, yes?
We are all bound in a way, Salavar.
Specifically, though, he is stuck there, and he wants to return.
Now, as for Mother, usually what happens when a soul is taken to the Nine Hells is that it becomes a minor devil, the most minor kind. And it languishes in that torment, sometimes for centuries, perhaps slowly moves its way up the ranks. But it always is a servant to a greater demon, a thing that controls it.
Salavar's fist kind of clenches and unclenches. You think this is her fate?
This is what, from what I've read, this is what happens.
But he intercepted it specifically.
She didn't make any sort of deal to go there. She was captured, taken. So I'm not sure what her fate could be.
This fiend, its goal is not your wife's soul. It wants yours.
Your son, for the first time, he speaks and he says, she's right. Mother is bait.
Should we take it? He looks at his children.
Your son says, I've been reading up about their powers. And, well, the main reason that you shouldn't just go there is because of how many there are. It's harder for them to get here, so you generally don't face as many. You fought the pit fiend alone. If you were there, he'd have legions at his back. They're without number.
I understand this, son, but the only way he will arrive is through a portal or gate, which suggests that many more could come.
They both nod. And if you fight him, you'll be fighting him without your power. That's the trap. The trap is that you get there, and suddenly you have nothing to fight with.
Malchazid will take it.
They both nod, and they look at each other. They exchange silent telepathic words. And then your son says, we have an idea.
Speak.
You'll need a new patron.
Salavar rocks back a little. I do not think they come so readily.
But there is one who isn't going to want to see this happen.
Salavar's looking at him and shaking his head. Whoever you have come up with to make such a transaction is out of desperation.
It is, but it may be the only way. She doesn't want to see a portal opened in her city. Your daughter holds out a scroll and gives it to Salai and says, "This is everything you need in order to summon a Yokloth."
Oh my God. Salavar, his eyes kind of go wide when she's handing the scroll over.
Salai doesn't touch it.
You want us to align with Loth?
We have a mutual enemy. Why not?
Because it is her and her followers that have caused all of this. That is a short-sighted alliance.
Your son says, he shakes his head and he says, "No, it's our family that's caused this."
Salavar turns and does one of those dramatic, looks out a window, pauses.
And if we do nothing, Menzo is destroyed and Mother's soul remains there. I know you don't care about that place, but we do have the same enemy.
The only thing I care about in this exchange is your mother. The city can burn. The family can remain in hell forever. But your mother, she is collateral damage.
This is from the books, the rows of books you hear. Can a devil be summoned before its banishment is done?
No. You already know.
No?
Yeah.
What about on another plane of existence?
You're not sure.
So, my children, he turns back to them. You would have me bargain my soul with Loth in order to countermand our family. Is that right? We summon the Yugoloth in order to even the scales.
Morgana says you summon the Yugoloth to make a deal. To at least temporarily find a new patron.
As you said, Malkazid is not a god. Loth is another matter.
Loth is a demon spinning webs in the abyss. It is no god.
And the demons and the devils, they've been at war for eternity. Why not let them fight this out then? Use that hatred they have of each other.
They cannot ask you to do anything, Silavar, but you know there will be a price. It must be your decision.
I must ensure we win.
Well, you ruminate on that. Anything else you guys want to get done while you're in Candlekeep?
Shop around for some magic items that kill gods.
Cool.
Yep.
I would like to investigate some topics.
Yeah.
Do you want a nastygram or?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't you write me out a nastygram and I
I'm
will
going to
jump
think on some stuff.
I will jump over to Zavir and Jidden. The two of you are in the stench streets, standing outside of the Tally Master's house. You feel that aura of cold air as you approach the door.
I probably would have told you this beforehand, Matt. Zavir would have let you know in the little the Null Shack, the Null Mad Shack, because he at this point he's summoned Azun back.
I was just going to ask
because he needs him, but he told you that his patron wants him to kill this creature, and he suspects it is to prevent it from giving us certain information.
Okay. Are you going to bring Azun in with you?
Have you summoned Azun back since he
I
was
just saying
destroyed?
I probably did.
He said he had him with him.
I can't do much without him. So, I mean, we would have discussed this before we went there.
Yeah.
Basically, without him, I'm limited help. So I can roll without him.
Cast ice knife.
I can cast ice knife. I can counter
on the ice guy.
I can counter spell. I can mind spike him, and I could in desperation use a couple spells without verbal component. But I guess if he discussed that with you, and you knew those limitations, what would you have wanted him to be at full capacity, or to have a free hand?
I think Jidden would go for free hand.
Okay, then he does. He has not brought Azun back yet.
A little spying eyes.
You guys knock on the door.
Yeah.
And no one answers. You knock a few times. No one answers.
This does not bode well. Jidden tries the door.
It's locked.
Check for traps.
Okay.
If everything's a setup, might as well. Oh, natural 19. So
All right. And are you going to pick the lock after that?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. So Jidden starts kind of looking around the frame of the door, looking around the
25 is
step
sleight of hand.
at the bottom. He actually says a few arcane words and kind of runs his hand against the lock. And then with just a few twists of his lockpicks, the door opens. As soon as the door opens, you see in front of you that parlor. And then beyond that is the office that he brought you guys into. And as soon as the door opens, you see through the parlor, the door to the office is open. And he's laying on the ground.
Fuck. Too long. Jidden will make his way over.
There's some papers on the ground, pool of blood. He's dead. He's cold. Not sure how long he's been dead. He was already cold.
That really complicates
He's extra cold.
kind of setting up the
Blood is cold.
The beer in his hand is still cold.
What's his liver temp?
He's warming up, actually.
Zavir is going to use his ring, one of the three uses, and cast Detect Invisibility.
Okay. Cool.
And before he gives any other indication, he's going to thoroughly search around this place.
All right. What are you doing, Jidden?
I think Jidden's trying to assess the situation, look for signs of struggle, break-in,
Okay.
any hallmarks of
Sure.
that.
Aid for investigation.
Sure.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and give me investigation with advantage then?
Who's got a better roll?
You probably have I have a +2.
All right. Yeah, this is one of my. That's pretty good. 26.
All right. You find the place, the security here is fairly good. There's a back door, which was also locked. The windows are all locked except for one. That unlocked window is like on the second floor in what you assume is his bedroom. And you can see signs, Jidden points it out to you, signs that the lock was picked from the outside. Whoever did this, they were good. They didn't leave any blood splatterings along the way or anything like that. It was a quick, clean kill. And you think there are things missing from his office, but for the most part, maybe these papers he was holding and they fell when he fell, but for the most part, everything is pretty orderly. They didn't ransack the place. They just took the things they wanted. And then they were back out through that window pretty quickly. You do find, with your detect invisibility up, you find a small locked chest in his bedroom that is permanently invisible.
He picks that up and probably looks funny. Looks like he's pantomiming holding something, and he brings it over to you, Jidden, and puts it in your hand, and you see him his hand's just out, and then as you place it in your hand, you feel the weight of the chest.
Interesting. I've never come across one of these.
Jake, can I say that I have identified the necklace
Yes.
that?
Yeah. What's it do? You want to tell the audience?
Sure. So the necklace that actually Azun first took from Gromp's study, it is a little homebrew Jake hooked me up with. Basically gives him, it lets him add his wizard levels to his cleric levels for the purposes of domain spells.
Cool.
Nice.
So he's a knowledge cleric, and they're all pretty cool, mostly divination kind of things. A couple that he already had, but the big thing is now that they're basically always accessible without having to use his spell slots.
Sweet.
Do you count as a like a higher level cleric, for example, for the domain?
There isn't
spells?
really anything. I mean, just to know them.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
mechanically with multiclass, that distinguishment doesn't really matter. If you can cast the spell, you cast it, you know?
What was the old subclass? The Arcane Hierophant? Is that what it was?
Divine Theurge. I think.
Divine
Theurge. Yeah.
So he, after he passed you that chest, we go over to the body. Can we tell how he was killed? Is it obvious?
He was stabbed a couple times with daggers.
Okay.
Devin's over here like quiet laughing for some reason.
I mean, we're all thinking it, right? Like,
I don't think he would. He seemed to think that Jin came in and murdered
for
him.
sure, it was for sure Jin. Look at him, Matt. He's like taking notes and stuff. Jake is saying, "It's like, you know how this motherfucker died."
I think Jin would have preferred to have tortured him on air.
No, this was business. He was just killing this guy.
In Drow hand code, he says, basically indicates he's going to cast a spell. Questions 5. And he points to you.
Just one other thing. That book that originally led you guys to him, it's here as well. It wasn't taken.
Can we tell what was taken? Probably not.
Some books that were on the desk with the 26 investigation. You know, you see a couple like splatters of blood, and there's definitely were some things on the desk that are gone. You would assume whatever he was most currently working on, because it was out on his desk, and they just took all the information pertinent to that.
Okay. So with that, he uses his second spot of the ring to silent cast Speak with Dead on this corpse. And I think the way he does it, he's cross-legged, sitting on the ground with his hands on either side of Yalund.
Yep.
Yalund's head. And I think he closes his eyes and it almost looks like he's going to tilt him back to open the airway. Start a little CPR. So his hands are kind of like on the side of his jaw, and he kind of goes into like his little trance, his blue eye, half closed, just starts pulsing. And Jidden, you hear, and you see Yulan's chest rise. His mouth opens a bit as the corpse doesn't open his eyes, but intakes a breath and then just holds.
Dope.
This reminds me of the first game I ran on Nastagram.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of what the 5 best questions are going to be.
So I would say,
It's 5, not 3?
5.
Wow.
you're thinking of the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
You ask him what questions he should ask him?
Perfect.
We
That was so good.
Can you hear me?
assume we would have had.
Is this thing on?
Is it working? Is that you talking or him? Oh fuck! 3.
You could say who is Seldrock.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was, I think, information you got from him.
Yeah.
That was like a pseudonym. That wasn't his real name. Because you know that's who is pulling the strings already. You just don't know who it is.
Yep.
Well, you kind of do. But what you have won't hold up in a court of lawful evil.
A court of law.
It's hearsay.
Gross. Gross, gross, gross.
Well, this is unfortunate for you, Yulins. I will try to make it fast so you can move on. The information I wanted before. How did they get here? The Duskrins.
The keys of sigil.
I know, guy. I know, guy who's got those.
Saldarak. His name. True name.
Malkazid.
Who was behind the trap to get us here? The exiles.
I do not know.
Every time you're asking, Zavir is just behind him, and his hands, his fingers move like almost like they're moving his jaw, but like obviously he's not. It's channeling through him.
Yep.
He just really misses having a jaw.
It's great. Fucking rip the sucker off.
What did your killer take that you were working on?
The keys. Information about the keys.
Last one. Identity.
Who was it?
Shadows. Shar's shadows.
Not good.
As Yulin answers the last question, there's like a long gasp as all the air and gases that the corpse has pulled into its body start to naturally escape as the corpse just reverts to its deathly form. Zavir kind of blinks open his eyes. The pale blue eye fades from that stronger glow. And he looks up at you. He stands and he goes over to the table and he takes looks through and takes a few prominent books of interest.
Cool.
Ledges.
Lots of good stuff here.
Jidden grabs the ledger, the original ledger back.
Looking around for the invisible chest. Can't find it.
My ledger.
Oh shit, I put it down somewhere.
And we will later roll for random items in the chest.
Amazing. Amazing.
Trident of Fish Command.
Yes. Oh, I hope so.
God damn it.
Salai, you are in the Claw Rift, in whatever sort of area you have turned into your personal bed chambers. What does that look like?
It's probably a group of crevices where those cracks are in the floor, and you can hear fresh water, and there's like a little breeze that comes up and brings fresh water air in, and it's in that little area. There's like a hooded, magically lit little stone that's in there, and she hangs up her armor and her cloak. And just a lot of times is kneeling in meditation, quiet contemplation.
You hear this sort of barking, like chirpy barking of a fox. And you look down and you see this thing has come into your cavern and is trying to get your attention.
Maybe it's carrying a spell component that Zavir needed as he was trying to summon a Zune again.
Probably.
Yeah, there's a twisted, looks like a little twig that was charred by lightning, and he has it in his mouth. She hears the barking, and the ring on her finger is a good ring, a nice ring. And she can
Is that the one you slaughter the air elemental with?
No, this is the other. This is on the other hand.
You use the ring?
Yeah.
All right. It's saying, I need your help.
Okay. So I hear that, and it'll yelp for a little bit. I finish my...
I need your help. I need your help. I need your help. Louder and louder.
Quiet your mouth, little fox. And she takes out a strawberry and
The wizard
feeds
needs
it
your
to
help.
him. The wizard does need my help. She stands up.
It turns and walks out of the room. What does Zephyr's room look like? This little alchemy crystal station, or
Yeah, he doesn't even have hasn't really set up a personal room. He's either
we're going to say it's probably been 40, 50 days in at this point. And this is probably shortly after the going and speaking with the dead there.
okay.
And we'll assume, of course, that you've all, unless you tell me otherwise, caught each other up on the details of these scenes.
Okay. Yeah, he's around that. He has that sort of. There was that dais, that raised dais out in the first room, which is where he's kind of reconnected with the ritual defenses of this place, and where he does most of his spell stuff when he's not in the Null Shack. And but he's actually pacing around right now, looking and then looking down as if looking for a creature who ran off with something that he needed. He looks up with you. His eyes are kind of narrowed in frustration.
She narrows her eyes back at you.
Are you holding anything? Like a little stick?
No, she has her hand sort of behind her back. Says, "Have you eaten?"
He just shakes his head and puts his hand out.
Gives you
His fingers beckoning. Not if you reach for food,
She gives you a piece of like dried meat. Roth. Is this what you're looking for?
he grabs it and his fingers tap on stone.
She looks down at the fox.
The mithril key. Tell him to use the mithril key.
To where? She like cocks her head.
Tell him to use the mithril key.
Are you yipping back at this fox?
No, I'm just sort of
You
tilting.
say to where?
Just tilting my head a little, like at this fox.
I assume you
looking down
talk
at it.
back to it in common, like, you know.
Okay.
But it is yipping at him.
Your friend seems to want you to use the mithril key.
Zavir just looks frustrated, shakes his head in hand code. Need magic. Points to his shoulder where Azun would be.
She has to like think about the hand code as you flash it. Perhaps I can help. Perhaps we can help. What do you need?
Again, he just goes, need magic. His hands like moving kind of like aggressively. My magic. Need my magic. Creature. As you seem to be in contemplation, this fox at your side, he grabs the keys. He starts rifling through them. He holds one up, his eyes kind of questioning.
The fox is yipping. Yes, yes. Let's go. Quick.
She motions towards the door where perhaps there was a place where you do not have to speak to use your magic.
He goes over the storeroom door, the one that this fox came back through when we used this door with another key to go to the high forest. He closes the door, puts in the mithril key, turns it. The click kind of like echoes supernaturally and looks at you. And then
As soon as the door starts to open just a little bit, you hear this howling wind. It's loud and so cold. And the door opens and snow just starts blowing into the cavern. On the other side, you see the snow-swept hills of a mountain. And the fox runs through and starts jumping through the snow.
There's Salai has this look of joy on her face and is eager to go through. She looks at you, wide-eyed.
Zavir has no look of joy, but his eyes kind of.
The sun is out. It's glinting off that snow. Luckily, it's pretty overcast from this bad weather that is happening there. But it's still, it's so bright.
The cowl of his cloak kind of on its own moves up over his head and comes low over his eyes. And he steps out into the snow. He's actually pretty comfortable. Spent quite a few years up in the mountains with the boots of the Winterlands.
Yes, you do.
And you see that the sun does not burn Salai's eyes or skin. She has this violet hue to her skin in the sunlight.
That fox just starts hopping through the snow, clearly has a destination in mind. You guys follow it through this sort of pine, rocky, very rugged terrain. You don't have to go very far before you see a figure standing on some rocks, clearly a dwarf based on its height, wearing a fur robe that covers all of its skin. You can't really see it. And the fox hops over to him, and he leans down and starts petting it. And as you guys get a little bit closer, he looks up, and you see his face, and you see that this dwarf, he has no beard, he has no hair. His entire face has just burn scars, like old, that kind of wavy, mottled flesh. His entire body seems to be covered in these burn scars. And he looks at the two of you, and he looks back down at the fox. He says, "Well met."
Zavir looks kind of tensed, like here's a figure, possible enemy. And then between his appearance and the way he's sort of acting, he relaxes a bit and just turns and looks to Salai.
She puts a hand on your shoulder.
He intrinsically, just you feel like a quick kind of like automatic shrug away.
Yep.
Not
She leaves her hand there. She leaves her hand there.
so she's not big on consent.
No, she's dark elf.
Kind of a hostile work environment.
She's a member of the clergy. What do you expect? We are travelers here from the high forest. She motions towards the fox.
Does Zavir get the sense this is Faerun? I don't know if there's any way to know that.
Knowledge geography.
Knowledge of the plains. That's a good old third edition
cut
one.
down a lot of knowledge.
They did. You're pretty good. Why don't you give me knowledge arcana?
24.
You think you're somewhere in the northern part of Faerun. He says, name's Dolgold, priest of Ilmater.
Zavir kind of cocks his head. Have I ever heard of Ilmater?
Do you have religion?
I do.
Yeah, then you have. He's one of the major gods, so if you have religion, you probably heard of him.
He thinks about it and then looks at his appearance and kind of nods like it makes sense.
Welcome to Mithril Hall. He turns and starts walking.
Whoa.
Devin just came a little bit.
It's not an easy place to get to.
I've heard.
Cut to a little while later, you guys are walking through a tunnel. Gray stone, smooth walls.
We've definitely heard of Mithril Hall, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like an ancestral
It's a
enemy.
legend.
Oh, yeah. Mithril Hall is actually very recently the site of where most of the Dark Elves were killed. It's actually not that far from Menzo. It's just up above, which is why they, wanted to take it over. You don't encounter any other dwarves, whatever sort of passages he's bringing you through. You can hear activity. You hear, shouting and talking and stuff, but you kind of move through this labyrinth of tunnels in these mountains, just following this dwarf.
Is the fox coming?
Yep. And he finally goes into this small sort of kitchen room and starts stoking a wood stove and heating up some water. And he says, "Why are you here?"
Zavir, at this point, he keeps looking at both of us and kind of like in frustration, he drops the cowl, or he magically lets the cowl kind of retract and fall back into his cloak and reveal his visage.
He sighs. He takes his hood off. His ears are gone. His whole head is kind of burned. And then he says, "I see."
Zavir points to the fox and just shakes his head.
The fox was waiting for him. when we came to the high forest.
He smiles. What happened to you? Pours you some tea. Sits down. Pours you some tea, too.
He reaches to his side, pulls out a little from his belt, small scroll case, pulls out a couple pieces of parchment, throws them on the table with a quill.
As you're writing, because it takes you a while to write out whatever you're writing, he says, I was a warrior, fought this dark druid further north than here, turned my armor to fire, melted my skin around me.
I did that.
We didn't have a cleric with us.
I did that to a guy in part 1.
He did. Heat metal on armor.
Oh, he meddled. Yep. I got his sword. I got his sword. It was one of the guards of the camp of the halfling merchant camp.
That's
I
right.
just fucking roasted him with heat metal.
He says I killed him. But then I was stuck up there alone. Everyone else died. No cleric, no way to heal. You know what it's like to feel your skin burn and freeze from the cold. Wandered in those mountains for, I don't know, I lost track of time. I thought I was dead. Fell into the snow. Looked up and I saw a figure. Man in bloody robes walking towards me.
Zavir was writing. As soon as he says that, he stops and his eyes snap over to the dwarf.
Gave me the strength to stand back up. I knew which way to go. Ended up here. Been here ever since.
Salai looks at the paper and she just sees the words snake-headed whip. And she has a little, she grits her teeth. Drow are responsible for so much suffering. Zavir's suffering.
It's actually not much. He keeps going to start to write, and then he crosses a few things out. He saw snake-headed whip, priestess of Loth, and then just says, paid the price for my arrogance.
He nods. I think I know why you're here. Come with me. I have a special job here. I guard a vault of cursed relics. Nothing anyone would want. Curses so horrible, they eventually kill anyone who wields them. Brings you down another hall and into a fairly nondescript room through a door that has barred iron strips on it, but doesn't look, it's not a vault. And inside you just see shelves and tables and trunks. You see a suit of armor, heavy plate armor that looks kind of like a devil. You can see spikes on the inside of it, facing in. You see a gauntlet with clawed hands. And then he stops and he picks up a ring. I guard these things to make sure no one else suffers from them. Everything in here is cursed. He hands you the ring.
Zavir, his eyes look like he would smile if he had a mouth to do so. He lifts up his hand. His thumb runs along his ring finger, and suddenly a ring appears there.
He says, when the time is right. And he puts it in your hand and kind of pats your hand. You see his fingers, all the kind of meat has been burned away. They're very thin. Just like an old lady, just skin and bone. When the time is right.
Zavir's hand just closes over the ring.
Those are cursed too. I got an eye for these things.
What is he pointing at?
The rings, the keys.
Oh, the keys.
You wouldn't be able to take those off if you wanted to. They've been bound to you.
There goes my obvious, why don't we just lock up the keys?
Same as your necklace.
Mine. Oh, God.
And we'll cut there.
Wait, what? You have a necklace on?
A curse necklace?
What did you do?
I have.
What are you stealing?
I
What do
have-
you got
I
your
have-
hands?
I have in
dabbling
my
around.
possession a vampire's locket.
Nope. It's the necklace you're wearing.
The necklace I'm wearing?
Yep.
Yeah. protection from evil necklace.
Oh God, fuck.
Yes.
You know what that is? That's a little bit of a. I probably know the guy that made it. I'm just saying. It's awesome.
This good guy stuff.
He can't tell you anything. He doesn't know anything else. So eventually you guys make your way back. After you have dinner with the Bruno Battlehammer and Distortion.
I wanted to do a scene with Xavier or walking through the halls of Mithril Hall and be like, you know, I traveled with a bard. He spoke of a drow that came here.
Okay.
A drow from the
Xavier
north.
makes the hand signal for fake news.
Canonically, we're 100 years ahead of that story, so he's dead.
Wow.
I'm
Spoiler.
just fucking with you.
Listen, if they can put 40 books into 100 years of lore,
shit.
that's fine. I'll still read them.
Jidden,
Ooh, yes.
you have arranged a meeting with Asina Vandry.
Yes, yes.
Where is that meeting taking place?
Huh. That's a good question.
Smoldering Mushroom Grove?
That's right.
Yeah. Why not?
Cool. You're surrounded by the charred remains of these mushroom trees. The ground is black, sort of sticky, gross, from all the fungus that burned up. There's still a sort of acrid smell in the air. When you arrive, Asina is already there. Young dark elf, 15 years old. Is that what I said before? Right?
Yes, about 15.
She's wearing the priest's acolyte robes, just black robes with a sort of gray spider web like design on the interior part of it. And she's looking around nervously as you stealthily kind of approach where she is. She's alone. You've done a pretty thorough search of the area to make sure of it.
I think Jidin, knowing, having done a good reconnaissance and assuming that they're alone, he won't try to terrify her and just kind of walk out of behind some stalks of mushrooms, probably still smoldering. It is not very smart to come out here alone, child.
I'm not alone. You're here. Are you alone?
Like your sister. I'm never alone.
She starts looking around.
There's still some like soot that just sort of hovers and dances above the ground through the stalks.
Please, tell me how a succubus from the stench streets would know you were looking for me.
I knew you'd be going there. So I put out word that I wanted to meet with you.
Which begs an even more interesting question. How did you know I would be here?
My fool of a sister announced herself when she entered the city.
Well,
But as to how I knew you would be there, rumors have been circulating about the half-devil, angel, elf, I don't know, about the strange children. Some even claimed that they were Duskrins, returned from the grave, or clawed their way out of the rift.
fanciful stories.
And so I thought, if you were looking for them, you would go there.
Well, you are not as foolish as I would have thought. What is it you would like from me?
An alliance. My sister told my mother about the threat, about House Duskrin returning. This would be bad for Vandry. Perhaps there's something else going on, though, something that might be bad for the entire city. And so I offer you the full support of my house, the full strength of my forces, access to our armories, our libraries, my personal guards. Of course, I can only do this if I'm matron mother.
There it is.
That's it. That's all you wanted. For me to take out your mummy.
She nods. My mother and many of the others, the other matrons, the other old powers, they don't understand that things are changing. They don't understand that we can't continue to squabble amongst each other. If we do, she gestures to the burnt mushroom grove around her. If we do, then we may cease to exist soon. We need a new way.
And you believe you have it. You and what other children?
You've met them. In Narbondellan.
The ones that followed me. You think they are fit to lead?
They're just like me.
Fools?
The noble children of matrons who are fools, who squabble amongst each other instead of combining their strength. The old ways have done nothing but stop us from reaching our potential. Look at you and your family. What happened to your house was because of pointless old traditions. Loth's chaos, though it may entertain her, serves a greater purpose. It keeps us weak, fighting each other instead of asking true questions.
Like what?
Like why do we squabble in the darkness instead of returning to the light?
Have you ever seen it? The light.
She shakes her head no.
So you yearn for something that you've never seen.
It's not the light I want. It's everything else. The surface, they say that it's weak because they have everything handed to them. Down here we fight for everything. Imagine the resources. Imagine the power of the drow with the resources of the surface. If we stopped fighting each other, we could have some of that. That's what me and the others believe.
The air, the sort of soot is, as she was speaking, was sort of swirling faster and faster, and then take a minute to reappear. And Salai,
You all wait a minute.
Salai
Your watches.
Can we have a minute pause on the podcast? While we wait?
1 minute of
I'll
music.
just add swirling air
Asina's-
sounds for 60
Asina's-
seconds.
Asina's that speech was very, very inspiring, and it was over a minute for sure.
Cool.
I once had that same dream, she says as she walks out from behind one of these burnt stalks.
Moon Maiden, glad you can join us.
She looks around at the grove that's just fucking scorched. Will you accept this task, Jidden?
It's been, I'd say around 99 years since a Duskrin trusted the House of Vandry, and look at how well that turned out for them. Though, Mother did put a bit of trust in me, too, and, well,
We must all disobey in matters of conscience.
you think it's my conscience?
No,
Good.
I think you fear to fail. And alas, you do not. If you seek the life of Matron Vandry, there is nothing I can do to stop you. If you are willing to take the life of another drow, I'm certain that you will find a way to do it. We are here for a greater cause, something that threatens all of us, not just drow and Menzoberranzan. She looks at Asina.
Then you'll need the help of your house.
Ah, child, she has no house anymore. And did you not hear her, maiden? What does she and the others crave but to take your precious surface world from their weakness?
We don't want all of your surface world. We just want
A taste.
We just want to not have to live the way we live. There's so much more.
There is a place for drow on the surface. You laugh.
Drow like you.
I was once drow like you. I hated what I saw around me. I hated seeing what I would become. I went to the surface. It was hard. It's not welcoming to people like us. She looks at Jin too now. But there are places, there are people that are kind, that will accept you. If you nourish the land as I did, they may even come to love you. There is another way for us all.
I don't want their love, sister. I want their land.
They will fight you for it. For every square yard. There'll only be more blood.
All of these things are in the distant future. What I know is that now the city crumbles. And we need to stop fighting each other if we're going to save it. The only way that I can play a part in that is if I'm matron of my house. Help me and our house will help you. You know I have no reason to betray you in this. Your victory is my victory.
I will accept your terms. But know this, child. I do it not to save this city and you. I do it to get revenge on your mother for betraying us. And if you betray me as well, the same fate will fall you. Remember that. For that is what Menzoberranzan does. And Jaden will turn and walk away.
There'll be a ritual at Narbondel, at the Black of Narbondel in 3 days. My mother will be there.
So I just, hanging out while people plot to murder her mom.
I think I have a new philosophy, like a new, what's it called? Bonds, drives, flaws, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
There are shadows cast by every light. With Menzoberranzan, there's always going to be these dark places.
Just a little fratricide. Paternicide?
Matricide.
Matricide?
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
My hands are clean.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Jidden and Salvar, Duskern boys. We see the two of you walking through melted stone ruins, sort of half walls, melted archways, crumbled towers. To your left is a ledge that leads into the abyss of the Claw Rift. To your right, the ruins of House Duskern. And beyond that, the Many Folks District. The two of you are just sort of walking through the rubble. Something that you've been wanting to do since you arrived, although you're not entirely sure why. You don't know if there's even anything to find here, or if it's just a sort of closure. You recognize these remains of halls that you remember playing in as children. Playing, kill the high elf. One of you would be a high elf and you'd chase them through the halls. Then someone would pretend to be an evil gnome. You kind of walk around this corner into what remains of the house chapel. The icon of Loth has been almost completely melted away. The stone is just melted to molten and then reformed on the ground in just a pile of slag.
I have heard you accepted the terms to kill the matron mother of Vendry. Salavar says that kind of as he's looking out of the rooms. He's not looking at you directly.
I did.
You think it will further our purpose? He turns and looks at you.
He doesn't seem to be, there's no judgment in the question, just an actual question as to the ends of it.
Salivar's talking turkey. He was a mercenary.
Mhm.
He's like, hey.
Truthfully, I'm not sure. I'm doing it because of what she did.
I understand that, brother, but make sure acts such as those are rewarded. Make sure there is utility in them. I say that because it's a line we want to walk. That line between utility and chaos.
Salivar, as he's saying that, he kind of crouches down by a wall and he takes a dagger out and kind of shifts a rock. And there's this little cubby hole. And in it, he reaches in and he holds out his hand. And there are these little statuettes. Most of them are broken. And he's holding them in his hand and he says, "Our toy soldiers. Mother broke them. That's all we ever were to her. These toy soldiers. And now she's coming back for a chance to break us once more. I know we don't care about the city, brother. But I do not think we can have both things. If our family returns, the city will burn. But so will we. If we stop our family, he kind of casts his hand out at the city,
will live on."
Matt, you hear a voice in your head say, "Has he told you who our father was?"
Salivar is looking out at the rift right now.
Do you know? Do we share the same blood?
Through mother, yes. Our fathers.
He shrugs.
Do you know who mine was?
If he is one and the same, my children would have us believe that mother made a deal with a creature named Malchized. Some combination of angel and demon. Whether his blood is in yours.
He's now like looking at you carefully. I mean, right, he's looking at the mask.
Jidden takes it off.
His eyes kind of narrow as he's studying your features. And then he kind of raises his hands up at his, which are clearly kind of, twisted from the horns to the different skin. He shrugs.
I don't know, brother. It doesn't matter. Or maybe it does.
Brother, did you never wonder why we see through the darkness? Did you ever wonder why Mother wanted the help of a lowly house wizard from the lower 40th houses?
Didn't care, he says out loud.
Salivar has known you long enough to know that your conversations aren't always with him.
So what will we do, brother? We're going to have to choose. If we open up a gate so that we can face our enemies, we also must close it, or we will be overrun. We cannot have both things. We cannot kill this. We cannot destroy the city and destroy our family. It is either both or none.
And what would you choose?
I choose the family that matters to me. My wife and you. The chaos here can grow, can continue. But There are so many souls here. I do not wish to speak for all of them.
Salivar looks around at this chapel. Are there any... He's trying to imagine House Duskren returning. He's trying to imagine what a gateway here would look like, where it could be opened. He looks for doorways, for entryways, for gates, anything that might serve as a foundation point.
The destruction of the house was pretty thorough. There's not really much remaining. And the only reason that it hasn't been sort of torn down in the last 100 years and rebuilt is because it's on the edge of the Claw Rift, and because of that sort of theory people have about the Claw Rift being haunted. And as you're looking out into the Claw Rift and thinking about that, you remember hearing this legend of another house that also once made its home here, which also is rumored to have dealt with devils and was also destroyed. And you think to yourself, there must be a reason that House Duskren and that ancient house both called the Claw Rift home.
Salivar walks right up to the cliff of the Claw Rift, kind of holds his hand out above the chasm.
You get this strange sensation looking kind of down into the chasm below you. This sensation of oblivion. You know, it's you don't know how deep it is. You don't know where it ends. It just seems like this kind of black nothingness in front of you. You think about that, and you remember how often you would see your mother, the matron of your house, in this very room, staring over this edge into oblivion.
You've heard the adage, brother. Stare long enough into the abyss, and the abyss stares back.
He's looking out over the edge.
I think this place, the layers between the worlds are thin.
He's holding out his hand as if he can, like, separate the two planes.
Our house.
Was it House Benray?
That's the first house.
Oh, no, sorry. The other house that fell victim.
Oh, gosh. Do you remember, Devin?
Oh, something?
Yeah. Obladror or something like that.
In our game?
No.
This is way before.
Yep.
Oh,
I was banned from the wiki, so I don't know.
I wasn't sure if you read that in the books yet.
Oberth?
Something like that. Yeah, we'll call it Oberth. That's fine.
House Oberth and now Duskren have fallen to the other side.
You think Mother learned from their mistake and will make a return, though they didn't?
Salivar's kind of slowly nodding.
We cannot put it past her.
Or perhaps Malkazid learned from his mistake.
His intentions, his goals and pursuits. I only have been told suggestions, whispers. I've never been privy to the grand plan. My children, he turns back, suggest an unlikely alliance if we are to defeat Malkazid and our family. They want us to make a deal with Loth. He's looking at you as he says it.
Point of order. They want you to make a deal.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
I use the power of Malkazid. I have done for many years without knowing its intention. He was a patron. I was given gifts, and I did not ask why or where they came from, because I was powerful.
That trait we share, brother.
You rely on a power other than your own.
In a way.
So, if that is the case, we may share both mother and father.
I don't think you understand.
Then say it.
I am not alone. Did Mother ever tell you the circumstances of my birth?
Our histories as male is unimportant, so no.
It's quite a messy affair. I'll spare you the details, but the consequences of my actions made it so that I would be here and our brother wasn't. Except a piece of him stuck around inside me.
You were a twin.
I was. Would you like to see him?
Salivar slowly nods.
Jidden casts Alter Self, and you see his hair lip begin to like reform and slide. His lips slide back together and into place. The scars on his forehead sort of like bubble and smooth out, and before you stands Jidden, but he looks like a normal whole drow.
Cool.
If I was going to do some Total Recall shit, lift up his shirt and there's going to be a little...
Third nipple, but it's a face.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that.
Let's cut there and go to the null magic circle.
I wish the audience could just have a camera on Devin and we do drinking game. Just drink every time Devin is obviously uncomfortable.
Xavier, you're sitting in the null magic circle, as you tend to do often. Planning, plotting, scheming, thinking about casting those spells you gave me nastygrams about. Your fear is that you're drawing on divine magic.
Yes.
So you're just not sure what happens.
I've been taking days to understand this new access and these new powers, and I haven't summoned a Zune back for, it's been weeks we've been down here since, it's probably been a few weeks since, at least since that encounter with the...
And you still haven't summoned him? Crazy.
Yep.
You guys get attacked. Ice knife.
Blind spike, counterspell. Got another one. Absorb elements.
Just mash the key. Oh, so good.
The fox sits on the outside of the circle, just watching you whenever you're in there. And you see Salivar walking towards you. He has a determined look on his face. He has something important to talk to you about.
Everybody loves these one-on-ones with the guy that can't talk.
Yeah, right.
Good radio.
Great character idea.
Xavier, he sees you look up. We need to communicate.
He says it kind of with a little smirk.
He gestures a hand out.
He sits. Over these last few months, the pieces are coming together. There are powers well beyond us. Powers that his hand gestures between you and him, have relied on, that we cannot do any longer if we are to continue. We are safe here, but not out there. And that is where we must fight. My children, they searched the texts and the books, and they found in the histories the creature Malkazid. It is a name I have never had for my patron. And his motives are obscured, but in a way clear. The downfall of this city, the downfall of elves. That may be the case. And he chooses us in order to implement that for him. through our family, through my family. My only interest is to assure that my wife's soul finds its resting place. The city could burn, but I think it must survive if we are to counter their measures.
Zavir stands, he crosses over to the big slate, grabs chalk, and he writes, I may be able to learn more of your patron, but only in a way that my patron would know.
Shar is a dangerous ally.
He shakes his head no, writes, Shar was who I worshipped. Now, my power, my patron, is here. He points to his ring. Writes, Alita.
She can be trusted.
His eyes laugh. Kind of the pale blue brightens for a second. Not in the slightest.
If this is the case, if you have distanced yourself from Shar, you will still have power then.
He shakes his head no after thinking for a while and writes, not yet.
That doesn't work. And that is my problem as well. If I renounce Malkazid, if I oppose his actions, I too will be powerless.
You look down where he was sitting. He was scribbling on parchment. Some of it looks like work, quote unquote, these arcane symbols, these stuff you've seen him working on over the last few days. And then there's a sketch to the side. It's a pair of hands kind of crossed over each other at the wrists with like blood red cord. He has some red ink binding the wrists. Do you have religion?
Nope.
Yeah. So might not recognize it, but
My children have suggested I align myself to ensure I have access to power with her. He kind of looks out and up above with Loth.
Zavir, he just looks down, shaking his head.
Those are my sentiments as well. But I don't have a lot of choices.
Salai and Jidden enter the main chamber. They're not kind of in the area where you guys are. They're just outside of it.
Probably a few steps apart at this point. We've
Yeah.
walked back.
Yeah. You can see that they're having a important conversation.
I look for the fox.
It's sitting there watching him right outside the circle.
I grab the stick with the string attached to it.
It runs over as soon as you touch the stick.
I have discovered, or Morgana has, that Malkazid, he cannot see us here. What's more is that my thoughts are my own. So our deliberations and our actions are safe for now. But if we are to succeed in defeating our enemies, the Duskrins and Albastor, we will need those.
He points to the keys on your hip.
And we will need power. All of it. So unless you have any suggestions, I have a deal to make.
Yeah. Boy.
The fox doesn't go in the circle. It just kind of comes over. It drops that thing, that spell component outside the circle. And it looks back at Salai like, did I do it right?
She nods at the fox and then sees that you two are having a pretty serious discussion. And she just nods supportingly.
Josh, I wanted to tell you, in the time since you went to Mithril Hall, you so with cursed items, they're kind of weird. If you identify a cursed item, it tells you the good part and not the bad part. So you have been able to, quote unquote, identify it. What it does is it gives you access to every meta magic ability, but you're not sure what the cost is.
Wow.
Because that's clearly the curse part.
The ring does that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's obviously would replace the other ring you have that does meta magic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a more powerful version of that, but you're not sure how it works. It's probably not too fun.
Probably gives you like a new jawline or something weird.
Yeah, he writes, for now, I need her. I have a way, but only at the end.
So we make deals out of necessity.
Salivar's foot's kind of tapping. You could tell he's kind of anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Zavir's just holding the chalk, like trying to think of what to write.
Salivar stands up from the stool he was sitting on.
Oh, yeah. He says, before that, there's one more path to try.
You could see that Salivar was about to say something across the room and then stops. Which is?
I've worshipped Shar. There are other worshippers here.
Salivar's looking at you and he says, the killings in the street.
I think it is all part of the same thing. He writes, I think it is connected to why, to us, to everything.
Shar seeks oblivion. Is it right?
He shrugs, like
as pedantic an answer as that is.
And Malchus is the downfall of civilizations. Do you know how we find them?
with her. He writes, and he taps the ring.
Let's go hunting.
Ta-da! Let's hunt some orcs.
We'll hire a mercenary company.
Cool.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Let's infiltrate.
Thank you for listening to A Tangled Web. Please, if you have time, tell a friend, write us a review, or, just go out and shout it on the rooftops. Check out all of our different social media platforms. You can go to our website and find links at the bottom. There's probably also links on whatever you're listening to right now. That's nastygramrpg.com, and definitely check out the socials because I tend to put little things on there to help with NPCs and visual aids and whatnot. Our intro music was by A Wilhelm Scream. Theme song is Oath by Adrian von Ziegler. All scores by Adrian von Ziegler and Antti Marttikainen. Thanks for listening.
That's nasty.
Lavender skin.
Lavender skin.
Gonna stand out.
Only in the moonlight.
Okay.